My name is Rachel Carter, and I'm 30 years old. I never thought a birthday party would change my life forever, but that night, everything fell apart, and I let it. The house was decorated with pink and gold balloons, fancy table settings, and a huge cake in the center of the room. It was my sister-in-law Melanie's 25th birthday, and my mother-in-law, Patricia, had thrown a big party to celebrate. Everyone was dressed in expensive clothes, sipping wine, and laughing like they were better than everyone else. I stood in the corner, holding a glass of water, watching them. I didn't fit in. Or at least, that's what Patricia always made me feel. Suddenly, she walked up to me, her lips curled in disgust. "Why are you even here, Rachel?" she sneered. "This party is for family, not for some poor farmer girl." People around us stopped talking. The music in the background seemed quieter. I felt my face burn with embarrassment. I had grown up on a small farm, yes, but I wasn't poor. In fact, I was the only reason this family could afford their luxury lifestyle. I tried to stay calm. "I'm your son's wife, Patricia. That makes me family." She laughed loudly, making sure everyone heard. "Family? You're nothing but a gold digger who married my son to escape your pathetic life." Before I could respond, she did something I never expected. She slapped me. A loud gasp filled the room. My cheek burned and my heart pounded. I stared at her in shock. Tears filled my eyes, but I refused to cry. Instead, I turned to my husband, Jake. He had been watching the whole time, standing with his friends, doing nothing. "Jake," I whispered, "did you see that?" He smirked, shaking his head like I was embarrassing him. "Just let it go, Rachel. Let it go." I repeated in disbelief. "Your mother just humiliated me in front of everyone." His expression darkened. "And maybe if you stopped acting like you're better than us, she wouldn't have to put you in your place." I felt my chest tighten. He wasn't defending me. He wasn't even pretending to care. Then he leaned in and whispered, "If you make a big deal out of this, we're done. I'll divorce you right now." I looked into his cold, uncaring eyes. He had no idea what he had just done, because he thought I was weak. But he didn't know my secret, and soon he was going to find out. I stood there, staring at Jake, my heart pounding with anger. My own husband had just threatened me with divorce, over his mother slapping me. Fine. If that's what he wanted, I wouldn't stop him. I turned around and walked out of the party, without another word. I could hear whispers behind me, people talking about how I had overreacted. But I didn't care. They had no idea who I really was. As I got into my car, I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From relief. Because tonight I had decided something. I was done. For the past 3 years, I had been quietly taking care of Jake's family. Patricia acted like she was rich, but the truth was, she and her husband had no money. Their big house? I paid for it. Their fancy cars? My money. The endless shopping trips and parties? All because of me. And Jake? He wasn't the successful businessman he pretended to be. He had a job, but his paycheck barely covered his personal expenses. He never once questioned how all the bills got paid. He just assumed his parents were wealthy. But it was me. I ran a digital marketing business that made me over $50,000 a month. I worked from home, managing multiple clients while they all thought I was just some poor farmer girl.
And tonight?
I had just decided to stop paying for everything. The next morning I packed my things. I had been planning to leave for months, but now I wasn't just leaving. I was cutting them off. I called the bank and canceled all automatic payments for the house, the utilities, the credit cards, everything. I had even bought the house under my name months ago, and they had no idea. Jake was at work when I left, so I sent him a simple text. "I'm done. I stopped paying for everything. Good luck." Then I blocked his number. By the time they realized what had happened, I was already settling into a luxury penthouse that I had paid for in cash. 3 days later, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I smirked, already knowing who it was. I answered. "Rachel, what did you do?" Jake's voice was frantic. "Oh, you noticed?" I said calmly. "Everything's falling apart. The electricity got cut off, the internet isn't working, The mortgage is overdue. What the hell is going on? I lean back on my plush new couch, sipping my coffee. I stopped paying. Silence. You what? He finally said, his voice shaking.
You heard me, Jake.
For 3 years, I paid for everything while you and your family treated me like trash. But I'm done now. Rachel, please, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. You threatened to divorce me over your mother slapping me. Well, guess what? I left before you could. His breathing was heavy. We need you, Rachel. Just come home. We'll fix this. I laughed. No, you need me. But I don't need you. And with that, I hung up. A few weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number. I usually ignored them, but something told me to answer. It was Patricia. Rachel, she said, her voice shaking. Please. You have to help us. I smiled, remembering the way she had humiliated me. Why would I do that, Patricia? We didn't know. We thought you were just a burden. But we were wrong. Wrongs. I repeated, pretending to think. Oh, you mean like how you called me a poor farmer? How you slapped me in front of everyone? Or maybe how your son threatened me? I didn't mean it, she whispered. Please, we have nothing left. I smirked. Not my problem. She started crying. Please, Rachel, we're going to lose the house. And then I said the words that made everything come full circle. Sorry, but I don't associate with poor farmers. Then I hung up. And for the first time in years, I felt free. I put my phone down and let out a long breath. It was over. The life I had built around people who never appreciated me was finally gone, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. I looked out at the city skyline from the balcony of my penthouse. My penthouse. No one to slap me. No one to belittle me. No one to drain me dry while pretending I was worthless. I had spent years making money in silence, letting them think I was nothing.
But now?
I was done hiding. I poured myself a glass of wine, turned on some music, and let myself enjoy the moment. Over the next few weeks, I started hearing things about my ex-husband and his family. Even though I had blocked them, word spread fast in our small town. The bank repossessed their cars. Their house went into foreclosure. The credit card companies started suing them for unpaid debts. Jake? He got fired from his job. Turns out his boss had actually been one of my clients. When he found out Jake had threatened me and treated me like dirt, he let him go. Patricia? She had to move in with a distant cousin because no one else would take her in. Her expensive jewelry and designer bags, all sold off just to survive. Melanie, the sister-in-law, she was forced to get a real job for the first time in her life. The same girl who used to brag about being too good to work was now waiting tables at a diner. The best part? They had no idea how any of it had happened. They just thought they had gotten unlucky. They never once connected the dots that their entire lifestyle had been built on my money. One evening, I was in my office working on a new project when my assistant knocked on my door. Rachel, she said. You're not going to believe who's here. I raised an eyebrow.
Who?
She hesitated. Jake. I let out a laugh. Of course. He had nowhere left to go. Send him in, I said, just for fun. A minute later, Jake walked in. But he didn't look like the man I had married. His expensive suits?
Gone.
He was wearing a cheap, wrinkled button-up and scuffed shoes. His confident smirk?
Gone.
His eyes were red and tired. Rachel, he started, his voice softer than I had ever heard it. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed.
What do you want?
I messed up. His voice cracked. I didn't know what you were doing for us. I swear, if I had known... I tilted my head. If you had known what? You would have pretended to love me better? He flinched.
Please.
I just need a second chance. I stared at him for a long moment. Once, I had loved him. Once, I had wanted his love, his approval, his loyalty. But not anymore. Jake, I said with a smile, I'm too rich to waste my time on poor choices. His face crumbled. And then, I called security and had him thrown out. After that, I stopped looking back. I expanded my business, traveled, and surrounded myself with people who actually valued me. I even started dating again, but this time, I wasn't looking for validation. I was looking for someone who deserved me. As for Jake and his family, last I heard, Patricia was working as a grocery store cashier. Melanie had moved in with a roommate in a tiny apartment. And Jake? He was still begging people for money, hoping someone would bail him out.
But not me.
Because I wasn't their ATM anymore. I was finally free.